players are massively overvalued in Dynasty leagues. You should be shipping them off right now for very good returns. We're going to give you the players and maybe what you should be looking for when you're trading these guys. Do us a huge favor before we start. Make sure you drop a like on the video. And if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, make sure you're subscribed because we are going to have Dynasty content coming out now all year round. So make sure you're subscribed if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you want access to our rankings, articles, Discord, databases to win your Dynasty leagues, flockfantasy.com/domain is where it's at. When you use our code domain, you get 30% off the entire site and you get all of our exclusive. And when you choose the annual Mother Flocker tier, you get one of these player blueprints, one of those. And it's for your Dynasty team. It gives you a multi-year plan for your Dynasty team players to sell, target, an idea of the type of build you have right now and how you should be approaching this season. So, like I said, flockfantasy.com/domain, annual Mother Flocker tier will get you a blueprint. Would love to see you over there. Right now, these players are massively overvalued, starting with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is currently valued directly behind Anthony Richardson and Chris Olave. He is the running back 2 in Dynasty. And to this we say, for why? Let's look into this. Okay, so part of the reason that this has happened is because of the running back contract fiasco that's impacted the entire league. We did another video on this. I'm not sure if it's out yet, but if it's not, it's going to be. And if it is, go watch it. CMC, he is one of the few under contract for the next 3 seasons. So this does give him very good value. I do have to admit that gives him pretty good value insulation. Like I do like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, but he's in Shanahan's offense. So let's not kid ourselves. Let's be real with ourselves for a minute. He's one injury away, just one, from plummeting in value. And that's not, and again, we're not going to predict injury. We're not going to value him based on injury. We're not going to avoid him in best ball. I've been drafting him in best ball at the 3 position and actually the 2 position.
2 position. Yep.
Yeah. So we like CMC. We are not predicting injury. However, this is like kind of a grenade when you're thinking about it, like a value grenade. Like
you are absolutely screwed.
If he gets injured and you trip, like the grenade's going to blow your face up. Because I'm telling you, he will plummet. He will plummet in value. He is hands down the riskiest asset to invest in during the second round of Dynasty startups. If you look at all these guys, from wide receivers like CeeDee Lamb to Chris Olave to Garrett Wilson to Jalen Waddle to quarterbacks like Bryce Young and Deshaun Watson, these guys, their value is so much more insulated than Christian McCaffrey. So it's not necessarily that Christian McCaffrey is somebody you should be avoiding, but when you're looking at the options around him and where he's going, how highly he's being valued, it does point to him being a little bit of a sell, especially when the value equivalent moves that you can make include some really nice elite wide receivers or quarterbacks. This is absolutely not a production issue. It's not. I mean, Christian McCaffrey will most likely be a league winner in fantasy this season. We're going to do a league winning video over on Fantasy Domain if you want to check out our other channel as well. And if you look at last year, I mean, 71% of the time last year, Christian McCaffrey was a running back 1, right? And the other 18% of the time he's an RB2. He was only an RB3, or less. 2 games.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who got traded midseason. Traded midseason. So we're all for investing in old running backs in Dynasty, like in terms of us and our strategy. We like old running backs because their market value generally indicates that the Dynasty community is predicting a fall for a decline in production. That's typically true. Guys like Nick Chubb, guys like Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones.
James Conner.
Why is Christian McCaffrey the standalone anomaly? Probably because his name's Christian McCaffrey, honestly. But what is it about him that causes everyone to completely change their opinion on 26 or more year old running backs? Because I can tell you what, people's opinions won't be all that changed when he gets hurt. They're not going to care anymore. Yeah. Why are we shorting literally every 26 or more year old running back besides CMC? Why are we not applying this exact same logic, which does apply, by the way, to Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's in a great offense. Joe Mixon's definitely going to be in Cincinnati for at least 2 more years. Joe Mixon is very consistent as a producer. He doesn't have the ceiling, but again, he's going as the RB 24, 25 in Dynasty on Keep Trade Cut. That's a huge difference. Nick Chubb, same thing. Saquon Barkley, he's going to get a second contract. Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler. Why does this not apply to them? I mean, those guys, their Keep Trade Cut graphs are going meow, and you look at Christian McCaffrey's like whoop. I don't, what gives? Like, there should be some kind of happy medium. Like, they should just be, like, even steadily, like, kind of just going like that. But instead, it's just complete opposite ways. It makes no sense. I mean, there's an argument to be made that Nick Chubb, Saquon, Austin Eckler, they offer less risk in Dynasty this season. I think there's a big argument to be made, especially about guys like Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, not really prone to injury. Somebody you're getting a lot cheaper. Somebody who could produce as a top 4 running back this season, honestly. I mean, the Browns, we know you have to take what offensive coordinators say with a grain of salt. They're saying that Nick Chubb, could get a fair amount of receiving game. That would be insane if that happened because he's already so good on the ground. I mean, they're just as likely to be the running back 1 as CMC is. Barkley, Chubb, Eckler, they are. just as likely to be the RB1. They're going multiple rounds after him. I mean, this argument just pretty much compares Christian McCaffrey to other aging running backs that are going after him in ADP. What about the young elite level running backs who have twice the dynasty life of CMC? What about Jonathan Taylor, who is 3 full years younger? Jahmyr Gibbs, who is
21 years old,
6 full years younger,
and the 12th overall pick in the NFL this year.
And
you guys like
drafted
draft capital? You guys like draft capital on Dynasty? Why are you taking Jahmyr Gibbs so much?
Breece Hall was a wrecking ball. I mean, we're not talking about redraft where we're worried about him coming back from his ACL. We're talking about Dynasty. We're talking about this guy who was a boss last year before he got hurt. He's going to be back. He's going to be back this year, honestly. We're 1 year removed from Jonathan Taylor being the RB1 overall in fantasy, and Christian McCaffrey finishing his second straight season on IR. We're one season removed from both of those things simultaneously happening. Yep. So with Christian McCaffrey, it's less about him and his situation and his skill set because he's elite. He is one of the best fantasy running backs we've ever seen. He's in a great situation. And it's more about the discrepancy between him and other backs that are his age with similar RB1 overall potential and how their values are going in completely different directions. To us, that screams there might be some other just as productive assets we might be pivoting to in Dynasty off of Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, and they're guys that are just the other guys that we mentioned that aren't Christian McCaffrey that are 26 plus years old. Honestly, they have, I think, a much better chance at maintaining their value going into 2024 than CMC does. CMC is inevitably going to decrease in value. He just is with as high as he's going. It's not sustainable. The next guy, before I reveal his name to you, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever addressed the fact, has anyone in your Dynasty circle ever addressed the fact that 3 of the top 36 assets in Dynasty play for the Atlanta Falcons?
You mean like the passing offense that was like bottom in the league?
Yeah, one of the least pass-happy offenses in the NFL. And 2 of those 3 assets are pass catchers. And the other is an elite hybrid receiving back who is running back 1 in Dynasty right now because of his elite receiving upside.
And because he's pretty much fail-proof. He's not the guy that's going to take the hit here. Bijan's not the sell.
So it is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is going to be my guy. And honestly, I will say, I'll be completely transparent here. You could, if you want to, you could say that Drake London is this sell here. You could take your shot and say Drake London is the guy who's going to take the receiving hit here. I'm going to wager it's Kyle Pitts, and I'll tell you why. You cannot predict. Let's start with this. You cannot predict an elite level offense that supports 3 premium skill position assets with a 3rd round dart throw quarterback in Desmond Ridder and an absolutely abysmal passing offense last season. You can't. 415 passing attempts last season between Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota. And 559 carries between Tyler Algier, Cordarrelle Patterson, and Marcus Mariota. Like, this is insane. This is crazy to me. And yes, I understand Kyle Pitts has decreased in value a bit because of his ACL tear, and some would argue that he is a market value investment that you want to make this offseason. I've flirted with that idea. But the more I look into it, the more I'm like, dude, there is just too much risk here. There was one team last season that supported a top 16 wide receiver, an elite tight end, and a top 6 running back. That was the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. Yes.
Not the same thing in Atlanta.
No. Yes. Arthur Smith is from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, but I think he's demonstrated that he runs the ball a lot more than Kyle Shanahan does. And he's going to want to do that this year when they spent the 8th overall pick on Bijan freaking Robinson.
Yep.
The red zone. This is a big part for why I think Kyle Pitts is potentially a sell here. Despite the volatility of touchdowns, you do need to have some sort of expected baseline for an elite producing fantasy asset, and Pitts has yet to showcase the ability to be a top 5 target among tight ends in the red zone. Last season, he was 38th in red zone targets. Yes, he only played in 10 games, but look at what he did the year before too. He was only 10th, and among tight ends, that doesn't mean anything to me. That doesn't mean anything. Drake London had a greater red zone target rate than Pitts did last season. So as a rookie, Drake London already outproduced in the red zone Kyle Pitts. He seems to be the target hog there from a passing game perspective. And honestly, that's not even taking into account the fact that Arthur Smith will by default always favor the run game. In the red zone, Bijan Robinson's getting every single one of those carries. RBs are the focal point. London and Pitts have showcased elite level traits and production at the NFL level, but there's been no evidence of that being sustainable. for both of them producing at that level together. Why is Kyle Pitts being valued as an elite level tight end while Drake London is being valued as an elite level wide receiver? It's up to you. Ultimately, I will admit this. It is ultimately up to you to determine which receiving threat dominates the offense, but I am telling you, you have got to beware of the risk. You cannot be pro Kyle Pitts while being pro Drake London at their respective prices, both top 36 assets in Dynasty. There's a chance these guys take away from each other as well, resulting in two mid-producing assets. We've seen that before too. I'm going to bet on Drake London over Kyle Pitts because London is already going at a comparative discount to guys like Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, despite showcasing similar talent and production, which was a massive outlier as a rookie. He's definitely trending in the right direction. Yes, Kyle Pitts did the same thing as a rookie tight end, but you have to take into account the fact that he was being targeted by Matt Ryan, who threw 560 passes that year in comparison to 415 last season. And there was no London on top of that. So that's going to be my biggest case for why I think Kyle Pitts is a sell. Here's what is for sure. There should not be 3 Atlanta Falcons assets that are top 36 Dynasty assets.
If you don't like it being Kyle Pitts, then it's got to be Drake London. Yeah. And if you're saying both Kyle Pitts and Drake London are going to produce, then I don't want to hear anything about you saying Bijan's the RB1 of Dynasty. It's got to be one of them.
Yep.
They're not all going to get their own with Desmond Ridder at QB. DK Metcalf's going to be next on this list. And Sam, I want you to put this on the screen, this graph that is in the document. Please. I want people to see this. Last year, DK Metcalf was a wide receiver 1 18% of the time. And he was a wide receiver 3 or worse 47. Half of his games, he was a wide receiver 3 or worse. Half of them without Jackson Smith-Njigba. Look, DK, he's a premier deep threat in the NFL. There's really no question about that. He had that one good year. It was awesome. He deserved to go up in dynasty value. Given his skill set, though, how much can we really count on him from a week-to-week production standpoint to convert his volume into fantasy points? Because the volume's meh. And now you have not only Tyler Lockett, who is a better receiver than DK Metcalf, but you have JSN, who's also a better receiver than DK Metcalf there. That is the truth, guys. I get mad if you want. I know DK big, DK strong. Those two guys are better receivers. I mean, DK is asked to bring down the most heavily contested balls in that offense. And when it comes to unimpressive efficiency metrics from a fantasy perspective, let's look at these ones. Starting with contested catch rate. His bread and butter. 44%. That's 47th in the league. True catch rate. 79 or 77% or 76.9.
That is
nice. But it's not because it's 81st in the league. Yards after catch. 202 last year. That's 47th in the league. Deep targets, 24. That's 12th in the league. So there you go. You're getting into deep targets. Red zone targets, second in red zone targets. Red zone targets alone will prop up his value, legitimately. But as you can see, he's doing almost nothing after the catch. It's not new. This is part of the physically demanding role he plays in that offense. It just is. When you're looking at yards after catch per reception, 2.4 yards after catch.
95th.
That's this much.
95th in the NFL. Among wide receivers.
Despite being second in red zone targets, too, he only had 6 touchdowns on the year, which was 20th in the league. Comparing this to his entire career, you can see that the volatility comes with the premium contested catch deep ball wide receivers. He has, in his career, had receiving touchdown seasons of 6, 12, 10, and 7. After making this entire case for why DK's skill set is so volatile and unpredictable, you then add in Jackson Smith-Njigba and Zach Charbonnet. A receiving back, and a target-hungry slot wide receiver, who is basically Amon-Ra St. Brown. Look at how Amon-Ra commands targets. Add that into the Seattle Seahawks offense. That's what you're getting. That's what you're getting with JSN. Somebody who is playing good wide receivers. DK is a good wide receiver. Tyler Lockett's a good wide receiver. He's better. The middle of the field is going to be wide open for Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's going to start commanding all these targets, and people are going to be like, crap, DK's not being... When you're playing in PPR leagues, we say this all the time. You're looking for high target volume. DK didn't have high target volume before. Or not overly high. He's not going to have it now, guys. Look, when you're faced with deciding between him and guys like Kyler in the Superflex League, Stephon,
it's laughable.
Tua, Deshaun Watson, Mark Andrews,
Devontae Adams, another guy that I didn't put there.
We're sorry to say it, but you should be avoiding TK at all costs at that price.
Sad face.
Yeah.
because I really like him as an NFL wide receiver.
No,
I really do.
he's fine. He's a really good piece. I don't really want him on my fantasy team at all. People are starting to figure it out, though. He's been sliding to the 5th in some places. So
yeah, he has, but there's definitely points where he's still going early 4th.
All right, we got
last 2 guys. We're going to speed it up here. James Cook. This is just. I feel like
we've been telling you to buy James Cook.
And now is the time to sell him.
Yep.
Now is the time to sell him. He is now officially going ahead of Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift in Dynasty, according to Keep Trade Cut. Directly behind elite tight end Dallas Goedert, top 6 tight end Dallas Goedert, and Geno Smith in a Superflex league.
Put that on the screen. Put the Keep Trade Cut.
It's all going on the screen.
What is happening?
Why? What the actual flipping heck are we doing? Look at this amazing game log from the next Austin Eckler last season. This was, otherworldly stuff from James Cook his rookie season. Yes, he's going to develop. Yes, he's going to improve as a pass catcher this year. What does that result in? A little bit better than that game log, which is still not very good. And DeAndre Swift, who is proven to be one of the most efficient pass-catching running backs in the NFL, will outproduce that. And Joe Mixon, who has an actual bell cow role in the Cincinnati Bengals offense and was the running back 7 on a points per game basis last season, will also outproduce that.
That's not bold.
Enter Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift's season producing seasons over the last...
Who?
Joe Mixon, from a points per game perspective, running back 7, running back 5, running back 19, and running back 9, and 16.6 points per game in the year that he had 6 games in 2020. DeAndre Swift, running back 15, 8, and 15. I'm sorry, James Cook ain't sniffing that production this year.
Nope. It doesn't matter how many times their offensive coordinator comes out and says, he's going to be an every down back. He's going to be more excited for James Cook. James Cook is turning up in practice. T. Higgins, the last guy. It's not a sell video without our beloved least favorite Dynasty wide receiver, T. Higgins. T. Higgins, the guy that, comes out every year, gives you a solid 13 points a game. But when you look at the ones where he was injured last year, you were starting T. Higgins those weeks. Those weeks count against him. Weeks that the Bengals and T. Higgins told you that T. Higgins was going to play and T. Higgins did not play. That does count. That does count. So with T. Higgins, look, you've heard our spiel. Being tied to Joe Burrow. If I had $1 every time I heard those 4 words.
We'd be millionaires.
Tied to Joe Burrow.
Millionaires.
Tied to Joe Burrow. Why'd you draft T. Higgins? He's tied to Joe Burrow. Well, what's the thing about T. Higgins' value? Well, he's a good wide receiver. He's tied to Joe Burrow. Oh. How about you stop saying those words? I can't take it anymore. Look, he's got a Jamar Chase, like a real one that is going to soak up all the targets. Not only that, he's got an Irv Smith, and you think, Irv Smith's not going to do anything. Well, Hayden Hurst did.
Yeah.
He's got a Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's not going to do anything. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he has for the last 5 years.
Tyler Boyd exists.
He does.
Heck, even Charlie Jones now. Even Charlie Jones eventually is going to...
Good old Charlie.
Old Charlie boy. Old Charlie and Chocolate Factory is going to do something. Look,
here's what I will say about T. Higgins, though. If you took his 13 games from a points per game perspective and totally took away his other 4 games where he didn't play and scored 0 points and screwed your fantasy team, then he would definitely be a wide receiver.
If you take Christian McCaffrey's fantasy career and just take out all the time he missed and not count it, he's the best fantasy asset ever.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that. All right, those are... I don't know how many guys there were.
Jonathan Taylor, Travis Kelce, C.J. Stroud, Saquon Barkley, Mark Andrews, Drake London, Deshaun Watson, all going around. C. Higgins, give me every single one of them.
Yep. Those are our sells right now in Dynasty. You should be selling those guys or just pivoting off of them for one reason or another. Yep. We can always put Justin Fields on here, but we didn't. Are you proud because we didn't mention it? Probably not, because I just did mention Justin Fields.
Oof. So Tony Pollard. Sorry. My bad.
All right, flockfantasy.com/domain. If you want to hear us tell you to sell T. Higgins louder, flockfantasy.com/domain is where you should be. When you do that, you get all of our rankings, Dynasty rankings, best ball rankings, 1QB rankings, articles, databases. You get on our Discord. We can give you personalized advice. We're always active in our Discord, in our listener leagues. And if you do the annual Mother Flocker tier, you get one of these. Blueprint.
What?
So, annual Mother Flocker tier, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain. As always, we really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.